Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, I hope that you're doing well. Hopefully everything is going well. And hey, welcome back to Computer America. You may have noticed for the past, 2 weeks or so, we have had either reruns or, new episodes that we kind of pre-recorded beforehand. But we are officially back. This is our first show back from CES, the largest Computer America trade show, and honestly, really our first show back since the winter break. It's been like 3 weeks. It's been crazy, it's been fun, and behind the scenes we've been getting a lot done, so don't worry. Computer America is back, and we are ready to bring you a great show. And hey, the whole year of 2020 will be our year. So everyone, welcome into the Computer America Show. Let's just say that ComputerAmerica.com is still the best place to find everything Computer America related. You should definitely check us out. We have everything from reviews, show notes, stuff like that. The content is a little bit stale, no lies, but at the same time, we'll be updating that here in the coming weeks. And really, we are primarily our radio show, but on top of that, we do reviews, articles, we do op-eds and things like that. ComputerAmerica.com, check it out. So with that being said, everyone, hopefully you're doing, as I said before, hopefully you're doing well. And let's go ahead and get started. Today's show is dedicated entirely to me and, computer and technology news. And we're going to be following everything that we possibly can. And first things first, we'll give our initial impressions of CES 2020. If you haven't been following the news out of there, don't worry. It's there's too much to take in, even for someone who's sitting on the sidelines, just kind of reading the headlines. We were actually out there shaking hands, and a lot of the guests that we were able to talk to are actually going to be on the show, and we're going to be talking about their products, what they had to show off, and hey, we're going to talk about their products in depth here on the program. So, we'll start off with that, but overall, it will be a computer and technology news show, and hey, why don't we just go ahead and get started. So here we go, and actually, we got this whole new setup here at Computer America, and still figuring it out. So everyone, here we go. Computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. So everyone, I think the first things first is, of course, CES. CES 2020, the Consumer Electronics Show, largest trade show. If you don't know what that is, then don't worry about it. It's already over. You don't have to worry about it for a whole another year. But what actually happens there is that companies all around the globe will come and show off what they had to, what they're going to do in the coming months. And this is a good time for the industry to kind of reflect on itself. It's a good time for the industry to talk to other players within their own fields, as in smart cars, smart bikes, everything from smart home to monitors to televisions to computers, graphics cards, all these different companies. They're all going to be there, and they're all essentially just, hey, talking shop. And they're all trying to get a little piece of that pressed pie. And what we really noticed there was that there were trends. And a lot of the news that's been circulating about CES and what happened at the show was that there wasn't really a lot of big announcements. And I would say there were and there weren't. The big announcements came in the form of some very cool, innovative tech that we saw out there. But as for, kind of like an overwhelming, this is the coolest thing to ever happen. Like, of course, IBM was there showing off their quantum computer. So, a lot of people got to see that, kind of up front and in person for a long time. That's only been in the lab. So IBM was there. Every company from Microsoft, even Apple, was there to some extent. Sony had tons to show off, including everything from stereoscopic 3D, which is a technology that you may not be familiar with. It's essentially the 3DS, the handheld Nintendo system, if you recall that, but it's a way to essentially use 3D without actually using 3D. And Sony is still working on that. And what that actually means is that the practical application for, kind of you and me and the average consumer probably isn't there. It's actually pretty harmful for the eyes. It can be very stressful. You have to be sitting at the perfect angle to get that kind of thing. But what it can do is, let's say you are filming something in stereoscopic 3D, and let's say you're filming sports is my favorite example for this kind of thing. Sports, if you film something in 3D, you're able to kind of turn your head, tilt the angle, look kind of behind the image itself, and you are able to get a really clear picture of what happened in a certain event. If there's a penalty, or if let's say there was someone scored, but you weren't really sure how close or what happened, because of a traditional camera will only get the view, and it can be obstructed by, people's bodies and things like that. Stereoscopic 3D would allow referees to actually flip the image and turn around and look at things as if they were omniscient. It's very, very interesting, but like I said, it's not something that's going to be coming to the general audience, but they're working on it. Something that did make a large splash, kind of speaking of Sony and their technology, was Sony with their concept car, and I think a lot of people need to, kind of calm down on that one. Sony's concept car was cool, but Sony is showing off a lot of their different technology within the concept car. Not so much that they're going to make one, although they are showing that they, not so much that they're going to, not so much that Sony's going to start making a car, but Sony wants to be a central player in providing the sensors. They want to be a central player in providing the content, the entertainment console. They want to make sure that all the screens within all these smart cars that are coming down the road, all of them are produced by Sony. And, I say Sony, but of course, every screen manufacturer from ViewSonic, Panasonic, Samsung, Vizio, all of them had screens that they want in those cars. So that's what CES is really about, is just showing off technology that probably won't ever make it to market, but it's what they're considering and what they, and what they hope to really achieve. So one thing that I really noticed about CES 2020 was a large convergence of technology where there are small innovations from company to company. They're all trying to do their own little thing, but at the same time, there's this giant race in the middle to kind of meet and really a lot of things about gaming. Monitors are getting a lot of the same specs. They look the same. Everything is in black and everything is RGB. If you're into mice, keyboards, computers, monitors, really anything with your average desktop, most of these different companies, they aren't trying to leapfrog one another. They aren't trying to build something that's faster, that's better, that's cheaper, that looks different. A lot of them are just trying to build something that looks a lot like every other computer. That's a critique, I think, of CES, and kind of what was shown off there was that there's not going to be a lot to differentiate between an HP, between a Razer, between a Dell, between an Alienware, between a HyperX. All of these different peripheral makers, all these different PC manufacturers, they're all meeting in the middle. And other than maybe quality, and that's going to be something that we have to look to, other than quality, there's not a lot really separating these different companies within their respective fields. So that's a critique. CES saw a large amount of people, just kind of all doing the same thing. Let's see. So other trends include 8K televisions. I know that a lot of you out there are very curious about televisions. That's where you will see what will be available in the coming months. And of course, by winter, a lot of what we saw out at CES will be available for purchase. 8K is trying to make it headway. Is 8K needed? No. Is 8K nice? Yes, 8K is very nice. You are able to upscale content. It will happen automatically behind the scenes. The software within the televisions are going to handle the whole thing. So even though there's not a lot of content out there for 4K, 8K televisions will still look better than a 4K television. Now, the meat of it is, will it be worth it? And that, I would say, is a resounding no. Yes, they will look better. If you have money to throw away, go ahead, buy a $20,000, $25,000 8K television, which, by the way, are going to start at 55 inches, and only a few of them will be 55 inches. Most of the higher performance, more feature-rich, fuller televisions, with this greater resolution, you really don't see a difference. Let's say if you were trying to find a 32-inch or a 46-inch or 40-inch television, you really won't notice a difference. So they all start at 55 inches, and we saw some all the way up to 120 inches. I believe it was Samsung that had the wall. Let's see, the wall TV, and it was showing off at CES. And I think that was a 292-inch television. Yeah, and of course, there was the smaller 146, more reasonable television. But yeah, they showed off the wall, which was a 240-inch television. So they go all the way up to that, and that's where 8K is really going to shine. Those massive televisions, and obviously not a lot of people have walls that are larger than these televisions. It's more for business. It's more for kind of displaying ads and things like that. But the technology is getting there, and it will eventually work its way back down. And by the way, I actually correct myself. The wall that they showed off at CES 2020, because I think like the 240-inch was actually at CES 2019, CES 2020, and seeing this thing, I mean, it was one of the biggest attractions at the show. It was a 292-inch TV, and if you wonder about that, about that measurement, 292 inches is the diagonal measurement of the television. So clearly, that's, probably 3, 4, 5 times bigger than even the largest TV that most people have seen. No one's going to buy that, but it does make a case for 8K and why it needs to come. Is because companies can now start producing televisions of that size. They need the resolution to go along with it. A standard 55, 65, even 75-inch TV, you probably don't need 8K, but it's you know, they're coming. I would say even by this winter, what is currently $25,000, you will see televisions actually go for closer to $10,000 to $15,000. And then in a year or two, just like, and I'm kind of comparing this to the 4K market, in another year or two, 8K will become affordable in a couple of $1,000s. And then maybe in 4 to 5 years, 8K will become the industry standard, and it will work its way down to, even like the couple $100s to the low thousands. And I'm thinking like, $1,500. So you want to wait for 8K. The other technology that more companies are getting in line with is QLED. That was originally something that only Samsung, I believe, was actually behind the idea of a QLED TV. Just, didn't really resonate all that well with people, but I guess it was different enough from the OLED technology that we've been seeing. So people are now saying QLED as a kind of an upgrade, where in reality, QLED only makes a difference when you're talking about these massive displays. And I think quantum dot technology, which is what QLED is, actually does have an improvement over OLED. But at the 4K ratio, OLED is still one of the best formats you can get. QLED doesn't really make a difference. But it's sticking around. And that's something that I thought before probably wasn't going to happen. I thought one of these two technologies, much like VHS and Betamax, that whole thing, I thought that OLED was going to outperform and just, completely crush any hope of QLED technology, but it's sticking around. And we've seen more companies. Sony definitely had some, Samsung had some, and more television companies are looking to get into the space. So 8K QLED, those are some of the the phrases you need to know. And another feature that we definitely saw on display at CES, and they had some very cool displays that I wish I had taken the time before the show. If you're watching the video portion of Computer America, we have all these videos and photos that we might put up on social media. It's probably not too late. We'll probably put them up. But either on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, or, we'll do something late. But the idea of a rollable television, which actually will segue us into the next trend as well, but TVs that kind of store in these little cabinets. They're actually quite small, and the television will roll up out of them, on a little motor, and then when you're done with them, they'll store away back into these little, these smaller containers. A flexible display is really what they're showing off there. That technology is coming to people soon. Obviously, they only have the best of the best, so you're still talking about TVs that are probably out of most people's reaches, but they are, we saw them like 2 or 3 years in a row, which means that 2 years ago it was experimental, 1 year ago it was prohibitive, this year it was kind of proven that it can stick around, and maybe in another year or two it will actually be able to be affordable to the everyday person. And by the way, those roll down OLED displays, which were also 8K, were made by LG. So if you're interested in that, you definitely want to check out LG and what they had to show off. So with that being said, LG had some very cool TVs. Samsung, Sony, they all had very, very interesting televisions. Trying to think of any other possible, kind of things you need to watch out for. One new feature that should be coming to a lot of new TVs, and it might actually make a difference, is televisions are going to have some form of intelligence in them, and that's probably going to come in the form of either like an input check or artificial intelligence that's going to say, this person is watching sports, this person is watching a movie, this person is watching daytime television. Don't worry, we won't judge you. And what the television will do with that information is that it will say, okay, The input is from Netflix. Netflix has recommended settings for your television. Let's go ahead and switch to that. And your television will automatically swap to the Netflix settings. It will automatically swap to the sports settings. It will automatically swap to whatever the content provider feels is the best settings for your gamma, for your contrast, for your brightness, all that kind of thing. And that will even go as far into video games as well. But it will let you, or you sit there and you don't do anything. You don't notice anything. But it will kick on and everything should look a little bit better. Like, that's the idea, is that everything looks natively better. And that, some things that we talked about in the past, such as HDR, 4K resolution, a Dolby Vision and things like that. Their fundamental technology differences, and this is more like just adjusting the settings on the fly, which is almost like an app or a feature of these televisions. It's not strictly changing anything technology-wise, but it will make a difference. And I will say that feature, depending on how well it works and as it gets adopted, that might be the feature you want to wait for if you're looking to purchase a TV. I would not say wait for 8K. I would not say wait for flexible displays. But hey, that is actually a feature that you definitely want. The other thing, they're going to be thin. They're going to be very, very small bezels. They just look amazing. Now, to leapfrog into that, another trend that we saw there, just in a few places, not too many, but flexible displays are here to stay. Even though we've only seen them in the likes of Samsung Fold, we saw the LG's rollable display. There were other makers. I think that I don't want to say it was HP. I think it was Dell and their notebooks and their higher end notebooks. They had like a tablet that would fold open into a singular tablet. So the tablet would almost clamshell onto itself, but then it could fold out into a full-size tablet. Flexible displays like that they're coming, and they're going to be here before you know it. What used to be kind of like the holy grail is now, well, yeah, it's definitely going to be here. Is that good? And I apologize, that's what I'm kind of thinking in my head. Is that worth waiting for? Is that, is that really something people should be on the lookout for? And I think it is, because those screens are going to be a little bit more durable, assuming that they don't break after so many folds. I will say that they're definitely worth looking into. And by the way, looking at some of these displays, I found this article from Business Insider showing off some of the different displays, and they have pictures and things like that. One of them, like I mentioned, the LG rollable display might cost about $60,000. And by the way, LG had a display where they had, I want to say, like about a dozen, so actually about 24 two-sided, so about 48 of them lined up. And they were doing this big display with like a waterfall, and they would, kind of roll out, roll in. It was very cool. But knowing now, that probably costs about $1 million in just those displays. So LG had very, very cool, displays. Even more beyond that, let's see. They had some curved displays, and they also had some that would actually bend when you kind of ask them to, which is pretty cool. So bendable displays, flexible displays, they're coming, and if you can get them, good. If not, don't worry about it. Let's see. So moving on from displays, other trends at CES. Everyone is doing gaming. If you are someone who really appreciates the gaming aesthetic of monitors, of computer cases, of RGB keyboards, of mice, and really even taking a little step back there, mechanical keyboards, you're in luck. Everyone is looking to cater to you. Every company has some kind of gaming offering, even to the point where, and so a lot of these guests are going to be on the show, but Seagate and of course, Seagate and their partner LaCie, or it's like a, kind of like an offshoot, they have what is known as gaming hard drives, which are faster read-write. You can, they have tons of storage, and essentially they're marketed just for gamers. I think some of them even have RGB. Yes, you heard that right. Hard drives have individually assigned LED lights. So a lot of these companies who traditionally they may have been like recommended for gaming, but they didn't really have specific products for that. They're not like, even if it's just like a marketing push saying, hey gamers, this is what you want. They're doing that in force this year. They know that it's a growing sector. They know that there's money to be had here and their products fit the bill. They just really want to nail it down and say, hey, this is what you want if you're trying to play video games. So we saw a lot of that. Let's see, even beyond that, I will say that massagers, and not really personal massagers, but more beyond that, massage chairs were everywhere at CES. And they're these big, wonky, egg-looking things that you would sit down and then they recline back. So you're essentially laying on your back and you're kind of sunken into this giant cradle. And oh my God, that was the busiest part of every show floor, were these giant displays where they had like, maybe 20, 25, 30 of them all set up in this one little area. And every one of them had a weary convention goer in them. They were getting massaged. They were, just kind of relaxing. And by the end of the show, because I guess they didn't want to take them back to wherever, factory they had them, they were actually selling them on the show floor, and all of them were sold. So if you are a fan of personal relaxation, then these giant egg-like chair massagers, which I think were going for like a couple $1,000, they were like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a piece. They were all the rage. So keep an eye out for those. So other trends, trying to think, connected everything. Oh, data. Data was huge at this show. Even to the point where traditionally companies were a little cagey about your data. Yes, they harvested it. Yes, they used it. Yes, they really, really, really want your data. And of course, they will ask you for permission to use it. But nowadays, they're designing their products with the idea that their users are not only comfortable with giving away their data, but the only way to use their products is to give away your data. Like they depend solely on the fact that your data is like a foregone conclusion. One of the best examples of that was a company called Bic. They make pens, they make lighters, and as you know, they make razors and things for shaving. Their company's latest product was kind of like it was like a beta testing field where you would sign up online, you would register, they would send you a kit, and in the razor that they give you that connects to your smartphone app, yes, it's a connected handheld razor, they would collect everything from how you tilt your head, where you start shaving, how you shave, what strokes you use, everything like that. It would collect as much data about your shaving routine as it possibly could. And they even said that this is not a product for the mass market. They will never push this out and say, hey, track your shaving habits. It will lead to some kind of insight. No, they're not putting this out for the general public. They're doing this because they know that their company can do rapid development if they have that data that is, that will help them design products, immediately. They don't have to focus group. They don't have to test. They don't have to do things like that. If the data is there and it's there reliably, they can just produce. They can just produce with no stop. So we saw a lot of that. Everyone from like the connected home, so like your Rings, your Amazons, your Googles, they're all collecting that data and they're making your home smarter. They're making your products faster and better, more personalized. But of course, as we said before, all of that comes at the expense of, well, your data and your privacy. So if you're hoping that companies are looking to, kind of backtrack a little bit on that, give you some of that privacy back, we're seeing the opposite. Companies expect it, and they are designing products that are to be used exclusively with the idea that you have data to give them. So data, that was a huge trend. Trying to think of anything else. And by the way, folks, we're about to come up on a break here on the show. And actually, oh wait, no, we're not. Hey, we did away with the break. So we continue on here, Computer America. We're talking CES trends, CES 2020, what happened out there, and I'm, just covering the show floor. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, oh my God, what a large convention. We didn't even get to Tech South, and we tried our best to get to everything. Like we did CES, the Las Vegas Convention Center. It took us 3 days to do that entire hall, and 3 days, one for each hall, and then we only had 1 day to do the Sands Expo, which itself probably could take in 2 days as well. And then there was an entire another sector that we did not get to. We just need more hands. So hey, maybe next year Computer America's hiring. But I will say that what we did cover was spectacular, and there's just so much to see out there. Let's see. So what else was seen out there? A lot of lighting, a lot of connected lighting. Every lighting company that you can expect is out there, and they're all making products that everyone is tying in with every other ecosystem. If you're worried about, buying things that work with Google or things that work with Amazon or things that work with HomeKit, which actually wasn't really there in force, or Zigbee, Z-Wave, whatever way you want to put it, or whatever ecosystem you can think of, they are all working with each other and they're all integrating with one another, which is perfect, amazing. That's what we wanted to see in the industry. Every product manager, every CEO that I talked to, they said, it's not really up to us to get people to use our service alone and only. It's up to us to make sure that when a customer buys our product, they can use it in any way that they see fit. And that is, that was very, very refreshing to see. No more walled gardens and no more, people not wanting to, play nice with their competitors. No, everyone realized that it's just going to be better as an industry if everyone, kind of works together. So that was really good. Trying to think of any other trends that were out there. Cars. Tons of cars. So many cars. They were so photogenic. I have tons of car photos in my phone. I don't actually like, sports cars that much. But boy, there were probably a dozen or two Ferraris, a number of Lamborghinis, tons and tons and tons of cars, especially like the muscle car, sports cars. There was a really, really nice Hummer. There was a Hummer up on stage that they had like a 3D experience where they would put everyone inside the Hummer. They would put VR goggles on every one of them, and the driver would be there navigating a course, and and all the passengers were also wearing VR so they could see what course they were navigating as well. But it was this Jeep that was on like a carnival ride motor, and it would rock back and forth, and people were just having a blast with it. It was definitely a huge hit. Connected cars are going to be a thing, and even beyond just connected cars, like the industry was there to show off that every car manufacturer you can think of was there. And they were talking about not only how your car will interface with your content, so think like your Hulu's, your Netflix's, any kind of device or system that you may have at home, but it's also how will these cars interface with cities? How will they talk with the street lights so that your car will tell you, oh, this light is about to turn red. You might want to start slowing down beforehand. How will these cars speak to one another when they are smart cars and they're going to, start self-driving? How are they going to communicate with one another and the city and the content that you want to put in them? Cars were everywhere, and cars are going to know everything. That was kind of my takeaway. Everyone from Mercedes to Jeep to just everyone. They're going to have connected cars that are going to be just more computer than car at this point. A couple of the companies, including Daimler and including another car company that I'm currently forgetting, both of them said that they will be building sky taxis. They're electric-powered, giant vertical takeoff helicopter kind of things, but they're not actually like helicopters. They're more like large drones. And they're going to go from rooftop to rooftop, and they're going to ferry people from, let's say, the airport to downtown, to certain skyscrapers. Maybe people, maybe like executives and business people need to get downtown quick. And instead of fighting traffic, they're going to take these sky taxis from one business to another. Obviously, more for urban sprawl and urban development, but you can see the applications. They said that the ones they had on display were very, very impressive. 2023, only 3 years away, and we'll have essentially large drones driving people from the airport over city streets to businesses and rooftops. And ideally, anyone is going to be able to contract one of these things. They're called sky taxis, and they're going to be fully electric. They're going to be fully autonomous. And even on top of that, companies such as Uber and Lyft have been promising to build these or to do these things. And the car companies are the ones who are actually going to be building the vehicles themselves. And then of course, you just contract it out. So those are definitely coming. 3 years, very ambitious. I don't know about that, but within 5, absolutely. You're going to see those flying to and from the airport. If you are really in a hurry, the price, I've seen some cost estimates being about $50 to $100 a ride, which if you get like 4 people, split it 4 ways, and of course you beat all the traffic and congestion, it may be completely worth it. So the future is soon. We will have flying cars, except they're going to look more like drones, and they won't really be cars. So flying drones and sky taxis are definitely going to be a thing. That's something that we saw there. Digging through my memory and other trends, I think that's about it. So like I've just talked, for the past half hour about all the different trends that happen at CES. And when they say, it wasn't really, there weren't really any standouts, there were. And we're going to have a lot of them on the show here talking about, the products and what they showed off there. And there were a lot of, smaller things that will be available in the coming weeks or months or already available. And they will make a big difference. It's just there's so much to report on. Actually getting the press's attention is probably one of the largest challenges that we saw out there. Oh, and by the way, speaking of connected homes and data and what I was talking about, the connected bathroom, ladies and gentlemen, smart toilets, they're here and they're here to stay. So I know that the idea of an internet connected toilet, it just seems so wrong and so weird and so unpalatable. They are being produced by the likes of Kohler, Toto, all the major manufacturers. They're all building smart toilets, and the intelligence in them isn't just about reporting data back, but it's also about keeping itself clean, hygienic, and just making a better toilet. Which, little things like that. Everything's getting connected. Everything's getting smarter. Some of the companies that we're really looking forward to having on the show, and this is by no means, a comprehensive list, but I remember seeing John Deere out there. And John Deere, with their latest combine, they had a true blue, the latest combine that they make, and those things are massive. And seeing it just sitting there on the show floor was something completely different. People love to take pictures in that thing. A lot of headphone companies, what they're doing, and a lot of speaker companies. We actually, got a private meeting with the manufacturers of a particular speaker that costs like $4,000. And I've never considered myself an audiophile, but man, those speakers, and I know $4,000 is a lot of money. I'm not disputing that whatsoever, but they were as close to a real sounding instrument as I have ever heard. When you talk about good sound, it's like, oh, that sounds good enough, blah, blah, blah. These speakers sounded real. Like, not good enough, not, good for speakers. They sounded like real instruments, real vocals right there in the room with you. It was a very interesting experience. So we're going to have speaker companies. We're going to have everything from an automatic baby feeder, and I'm changing the name of that a little bit. Think of it like Keurig for baby formula. It's very, very interesting. There were automatic litter boxes and automatic cat feeders. There were, of course, gaming monitors, gaming setups, microphones, headphones, mice, keyboards, everything you could possibly think of. It was a very interesting mix of technology to be shown out there. So we're going to have car companies on the show in the coming weeks. We're going to have keyboard companies. We're going to have cat litter box companies. We're going to have baby feeding companies. We're going to have, all different kinds of companies, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope that you're looking forward to it. Sorry that, you had to rely on other outlets to really get your CES fix, but our specialty here is to have the companies on the show and do long-form, in-depth conversations. Because sure, we could write a 2-paragraph article about what Cherry and their new keyboards are like, but we'd rather have Cherry on the show here with us talking about their latest keyboards, what went into it, what were the design philosophies, and hey, we feel that that's what makes Computer America special, is the longer form interviews. And trust me, you're going to get a lot of them. So, all that being said, I hope I didn't talk too long about that. But let's go ahead and just continue with computer technology news. These are some of the headlines from today. And like I said, in the coming weeks, or even the coming months, I mean, there's so many contacts that we made. These companies are going to be on the show, so tune in. Now, let's go ahead and talk about computer and technology news, some of the different headlines actually making the rounds today. And tons of different stories, a lot of them about privacy. How about we go ahead and start with this one? Google. You've heard of them. Google is, cutting out cookies. And what that means is not something like, cooking-wise. Alphabet Inc., who of course is the parent company of Google, says that within 2 years, they plan to block a common way businesses track online users in its Chrome browser, endorsing costly changes to how the web operates as it tries to satisfy increasing privacy demands from its users. which, very true. Google plans to restrict advertising software companies and other organizations from connecting their browser cookies to websites that they do not operate. And they said that Apple made a similar move in 2017 with the Safari browser, but Chrome's global market share is 3 times greater at about 64%. Chrome is by far the largest browser out there. So they said that within 2 years, Google announced that it had expected for the industry, it's going to do what the industry expected for months. They said that the financial analysts expect minimal effect on Google's own ad business because it gathers data on users in many other ways, which is very true. It does everything from tracking what device you log in from, where you log in from, any accounts that you're signed into. There's so many ways that Google is able to collect data about you that cookies are kind of old-fashioned and they're very intrusive, and at the same time they're very not necessary for at least companies like Google. But other companies, they definitely use cookies, and whenever you go onto a new website and it says things like, we use cookies to collect analytics about our audience, and you have to click OK, that's the message that pops up on every website. You kind of get the idea of how many people actually use cookies. But within 2 years, Google's planning to discontinue that practice altogether, or at least on Chrome. So other browsers may let you, but hey, let's face it, if Chrome does it, the privacy-minded people over at Mozilla and Firefox are going to definitely endorse that. And then even beyond that, Safari already has. So it's just going to be an industry standard. They said that cookies also have given obscure software vendors whose technology is used by website operators a broad window into which web pages a user is visiting. When shared with advertisers, the data enabled predictions about which ads the individual would find relevant. Just like me, if I were to visit a gaming website, if I were to visit Amazon and I was looking at, let's say, just, doors or window blinds or desks or things like that, that's the thing that would cause you to, the banner ads, the pop-up ads, all those different ads would then become what you were already looking for. Makes sense. Users and regulators have questioned how businesses with access to browsing data store and share them since the advent of the cookie, but over the past 3 years, data breaches and new privacy laws in California and Europe have prompted major changes at internet businesses. So, hey, that at least gives the web enough time to hopefully find a way around that. As personally though, I said that this was a trend with CES 2020. Data is king. And it's going to matter not even about your browsing history, but about your individual data, like what you find relevant. If you have a routine, like we even saw a company out there that had a smart security system that would build routines where you would install the security camera outside, and the routine would be, let's say you expect your son to come home from school every day at 3:30, and it would give a 30-minute window saying that between 3:30 and 4 o'clock, we expect a human body to be walking up to the door and open the door and go in. Traditionally, your security system would just say, hey, we detected motion in front of the house at 3:30, blah, blah, blah. So the difference here is that the security camera, if it did not notice any movement that looked like a human in front of your house between 3:30 and 4, then it would send you a message. It would say that, hey, we didn't see your son come home. Would you like to call them? Would you like to see what's up? And then it would give you an alert because something didn't happen that the technology was expecting. That's how intelligent we're kind of getting with our data, is that the data can point to what should happen. And if it doesn't happen, it can then respond appropriately. So things are getting very, very interesting, to say the least. So there's that story. Again, Google cutting web tracking and, user data, all that kind of thing. Let's go ahead and continue on here. Let's talk about, this is worth at least mentioning. Microsoft and their Chromium Edge browser is finally here. So if you didn't know, Microsoft has a browser. I'm not talking about Internet Explorer. I am talking about Edge, but Microsoft Edge just didn't really launch very well. It was a very fast browser, but I think the thing that killed it for a lot of people, oddly enough, was that it wasn't Chrome. And so much of current browsers run with Chrome or are compatible with Chrome. And even beyond that, the cool thing about Chrome is that it has so many add-ons and it has so many plugins or whatever you want to call them that it just made Edge so much more unattractive. Yeah, even though it was faster and more efficient, people still weren't looking to switch from Chrome. So what did Microsoft do? Well, instead of trying to really sell the merits of Edge, they said, you know what? We're going to scrap it from the ground up. People obviously like Chrome and the Chromium browser. We're going to use that as well. And ladies and gentlemen, the Microsoft Chromium browser is now available. They said that they will be releasing its Chromium-based Edge browser today, which is powered by the same engine behind Google Chrome. Windows and Mac users can download and install the update manually, and automatic updates will start rolling out for Windows users next week. IT admins can rest easy, though, as Microsoft isn't automatically upgrading commercial customers through the Windows update. And again, the major update here is that the Edge browser behind the scenes will be a bit more compatible with everything. But if you already have some things that are built on the Edge browser, you don't want to break that compatibility so quickly. They said that when Microsoft initially launched Edge with Windows 10, it poured plenty of resources into building up its own Edge HTML browser framework, but the company simply couldn't compete with Google Chrome's dominance. So, with that being said, it's moved over. And the author here says that they used the new Edge browser since last April, and while it was disappointing to see Microsoft cede more control of the web to Google, you can't deny that it's a far better experience than before. It's fast, easy to use. The compatibility issues with websites is much lower because now companies just have to make sure that their website runs with Chrome, and if it runs on Chrome, then you know it runs with the much less adopted Edge. Like, they don't have to break compatibility for all those other companies. So that was released today. If you're a fan of that and you're a fan of Microsoft, then hey, might be worth checking out. Let's go ahead and continue talking about this. So some of the other stories. Oh my God. Amazon made big waves here in, before the holidays when it came to FedEx. Amazon would not let companies use FedEx to deliver packages, and that led to a lot of shortages and a lot of problems during the holiday season where, we experienced it here. 1 to 2 day shipping took as much as like 2 to 3 weeks. Very, very uncommon for Amazon, which is, very good about this kind of thing. But they broke their contract with FedEx. They would not allow any of their sellers to use FedEx. And even beyond that, well, hey, FedEx was just left out in the cold. And it's because I think Amazon alone was like 10% of FedEx's entire business. Well, looks like they are allowing third-party sellers to use FedEx Ground for Prime deliveries. They're saying that FedEx might not be a permanent option for ground shipping. The courier said in August that it wouldn't renew its ground contract without Amazon-owned packages. Amazon has expanded its own delivery network in recent years, including using drones, as it takes more control over distribution. It looks like they're just reinstating this for now. But hey, we'll wait and see what this actually means. Let's see. How about we go ahead and continue on here? looking through some of the stories here. How about we talk about Apple? Just real quick. Apple and their rack-mounted Mac Pro, the one that has like 1.5 terabytes of RAM. Well, you can configure this thing all the way up to have like 3.5 gigahertz, 8-core Xeon processor, all the way up to like a 28-core Xeon W, 1.5 terabytes of RAM, and a Radeon Pro Vega 2 Duo GPS with 128 gigs of video memory, all of that coming out to over $50,000. And by the way, everyone, yeah, it's available. It's available now. Go out and buy a $54,000 computer if this is what you wanted. Not a lot of people are going to get this, admittedly, but for those who really, really want it, well, they said that the Mac Pro is intended for render farms as a server and other commercial or professional uses. They can finally get this thing. But yeah, not many people are going to actually be using these things in day-to-day lives. But it's always fun to talk about Apple and their highest price point. Let's talk about, and I apologize, I talked so much about CES that I was pretty unprepared for everything else. Let's go ahead and talk about. You know what? Apple again, real quick. Apple and their iPhone charger. They said that Apple could be forced to change to USB-C. So if you don't know anything about Apple, they're currently using the Lightning connector. It's much like USB-C. It's it doesn't matter which way you put it in. It just slides and you're good to go. But it is a different standard that that companies do have to kind of use. And well, looks like Apple may set a precedent where they said that the EU was set to vote on the matter at a future session, but hasn't confirmed the date, saying that the switch would render current iPhone cables useless and force fans to buy a new lead if they want to upgrade their handset. The new iPhone cable would be Apple's third in 13 years. For the longest time, they had it was like the 13-pin connector, and then it was like the 7-pin connector, and then came the Lightning cable, and now potentially we could see a transition to USB-C, which personally I would love. There's nothing wrong inherently with the Lightning connector. The only problem I have with it is that Apple is doing it just to be Apple. Just to be, kind of on their own, even though they did put a lot of money into the engineering of this device, but it doesn't do anything strictly better than USB-C. And in fact, in a lot of ways, USB-C is much more widely adopted and better in even a few regards. They're saying that the male end of the cables is a little thicker and much wider than Apple's Lightning cable, but they largely perform the same job. They said that most flagship Android phones now feature USB-C ports, including the Samsung Galaxy 10, the Google Pixel 4, and the OnePlus 7 Pro, all of the direct competitors to the Apple phone. Last year, the iPhone 11 cable also had a USB-C tip on one end, but still joins the handset into a Lightning connector. It's also worth mentioning that Apple is rumored to be adding USB-C connectors to the upcoming iPhone 12 anyways. So in other news, Samsung is expected to reveal the first 5G tablet in a matter of weeks, and the iPhone 12 is, could be the thinnest ever thanks to new screen technology, so on and so forth. I don't know. Hey, USB-C, it's coming. Don't have a lot of time for any other stories. I think, let's see. Okay, I think that's about it. So overall, today's show was kind of, my standalone recap of CES. I'm sure that I missed a lot. There was just so much to cover that there was no way I was going to actually get to it all. But overall, CES 2020, huge success, had a lot of fun, and what this means for at least our audience in particular, and our show in particular, a lot more Computer America, a lot more interviews, a lot more guests. I have probably about 150 to 200 contacts I made out there. Hopefully we'll get them on the show, and it will be from some of the biggest names and companies that you definitely haven't heard of. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to have a lot of fun bringing that to you. So with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America here. We hope that you had fun here on the program. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and say it. Thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. The music means that we are done for the day. And hey, we'll be back tomorrow. I think tomorrow we're going to have a company on the show that's, it's not really something that we've ever done before, but I'm interested. Persetto, if you've ever heard of them, they have a way of polishing liquor. And I'm probably going to be trying it here on the air during the interview. I don't drink a lot, and hey, we're going to try some of it out. So everyone, tomorrow on the show, Persetto and more, Computer America. Hey, catch you next time. Bye, everyone.